Hey, how's it going, Gabe? How's it going?
Good, good. How's it going? Thanks for having me.
Yes, I'm super excited. You're back in Yuma, news anchor of Yuma, back in Yuma. How has your journey been so far? Where did you come from last?
Yeah, so most recently it came from New Mexico. I used to live in Yuma and I was here as a morning anchor. This is actually where I started my career in broadcast journalism, and that was almost a decade ago. I've had a
Wow.
wild ride in my news journey. I started off in San Diego, I got a producing job there, moved to Yuma. This is where I got my first anchoring gig. And then from Yuma, I moved to Fresno, California in the Central Valley as a morning reporter slash anchor. And then from there, I moved to New Mexico, the land of enchantment, as a morning anchor there. So that was my last news stop. And then I'm here in a different capacity, telling stories by way of marketing. So it's kind of crazy. I never in a million years that I think I'd be back in Yuma, but here I
Mhm.
am.
Yes, it's great to have you back. So, our show is all about inspiration, and our show is called Inspiring Innovators. We cover seven different topics of overall wellness: emotional, financial, physical, spiritual, environmental, social, and fun. So, I'm really excited today. We have a lot of amazing topics to talk about your journey and just simply what it takes to be a journalism. And we're here to talk about that right now. So, let's go on to our first topic. It is from passion to press, the journey into journalism. So, can you tell us like what inspired you to start this career?
Yeah, so for those who don't know, I was born and raised in Maui, Hawaii, and growing up in the islands, I think I had a very different perspective of the world around me.
Mhm.
My lens into what was quote unquote a normal life was through television. So I watched our local TV stations, and in Hawaii, it was KHON2. So they
Mhm.
became a part of everyone's family, especially in an island nation like Hawaii, where you have to literally fly island by island to get to a different community. Um, Watching the TV news was our only way of seeing what was going on. So I think I was just inspired by the level of storytelling that they had in our local TV stations. And so that kind of spurred my interest. I joined my high school video club at Maui High School. Mr. Clint Gima was our instructor there, and so that's kind of what spurred my interest in news. I was involved in STN with my middle school teacher, Miss Jennifer Suzuki, and so those are the people who inspired this career. And then so I went to college for journalism at Arizona State University. And so from there, I got my first news job in San Diego as an associate producer. So I was very fortunate because San Diego is a pretty large market, but I started off at the bottom of the totem pole as a news writer. So I was behind the scenes there. I got my first news job as an anchor in Yuma, Arizona, where I'm at now. And so I learned a lot there, made some mistakes, but I also Yuma was the best place to start off in journalism because there's a lot of things going on here.
Absolutely.
From Yuma as a morning anchor, I moved to Fresno, California as a reporter and anchor in the Central Valley. Also, a huge storytelling market, covered a lot of crime. Um, but also on top of the hard news, we also covered really fun stories.
Okay.
Especially as a morning reporter, we would have opportunities to do fun live shots featuring different local
Mhm.
businesses, doing wine tastings. Sometimes I would do a wine tasting at 5 in the morning.
That's
So that
crazy.
yeah, that was a fun time.
Yeah.
And then from Fresno, I moved to Albuquerque, New Mexico, also as a morning anchor. It was a very different market because this was the first market that covered the entire state of New Mexico.
Mhm.
So we had a huge area to cover, but it was very fulfilling because New Mexico is very old school, so they all watch TV.
Mhm.
So every time I would be out in the community, people would recognize me. So I got my taste as what it would be like as sort of the closest thing to a local celebrity there.
Absolutely.
But also, there were a lot of stories to cover too. The people were very warm. I met a lot of cool people there.
Mhm.
But with the way the industry is now, I decided to leave the industry and tell stories in a different capacity by way of marketing. So that's what made me move to Yuma again.
Great, great. Yeah, as a marketer myself and PR professional, I know exactly how you feel. The industry, I started my journey also at KYMA, but
Mm.
back then it was called KSWT.
Ah,
So, um, and that was very inspiring as well for myself because I had come from the behavioral health world and now into the communications world. And I never knew that would catapult my career. I worked in the marketing department as the non traditional revenue coordinator. And the next thing I know, I'm helping build the weather app, I'm helping build the social media pages for them. And things just kind of catapulted to that. I didn't know I knew how to make websites. I learned on the
mm,
go, and I grew my career. And then I got into promotional marketing, and soon I was running comedy shows for pretty A-list
nice.
people, and things just kind of kept moving forward. So very excited about both of us being Asian culture. We
Yeah.
are doing things a lot different, and it's great that we're building an avenue for others in the industry
Oh,
to
for
show that
sure.
you can do it too.
Yeah.
Um, Now to the next topic, meaningful connections. So, how have you made meaningful connections while working as a journalist?
Yeah, so I guess you can do it in different capacities. Whenever I was out in the field as a reporter, I would make my connections through the different officials that I meet out in the
Mhm.
field. So, but more importantly, the best connections are the ones that you make with just everyday people.
Absolutely.
As journalists, the best types of stories are the ones that go beyond what public officials tell us, and they go into what real everyday people say. For example, if you're covering a crime story, you can have an interview where the police official is giving us a rundown of what happened. But a more compelling way of telling that story is through an eyewitness report.
Yes.
So by talking to someone who's seen what happened, or from the first person source itself.
Mhm.
So yeah, I mean, naturally, I'm actually a really shy, introverted person,
I would
but I yeah, so I feel like um, getting to know people in that capacity by way of my job was a great way to get out there, and it
Mhm.
felt natural to me. So I've kind of grown in that regard by being out in the field. I also met a lot of cool people just with the job, so I'm very grateful for the different relationships that I've built during my time as a journalist.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Yeah, it's amazing how many people like see you every day on the news and they see the things that you cover, and like sometimes I've seen you go into like crime scene areas and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, that's so scary." But it's your job. You have to
Yeah,
report to the public, you have to report to the community, and I thank you for, always being truthful and always, you know, being the best version of you, because I know it's probably hard that, the public eye is always on you. People are following you, people are DMing you, hey, this, that, and third. So
yeah,
it's a lot of a strong person to deal with all that coverage and media all the time.
yeah,
So that ties into this topic, breaking news, breaking the truth. So obviously, there's always people that will put stuff on Facebook like, oh my gosh, this is happening such and such place, but you don't know if it's really real, or they're posting pictures, or they're sending emails or spam or whatever. You really don't know what you don't know until it's the truth.
yeah.
So touch on that topic.
Yeah, so the only person who can verify what's real or false is the journalist itself, right? So, whenever a reporter is sent to a breaking story, they have several things that they want to accomplish, right? So, first, we want to be the first to arrive at the scene. And secondly, and more importantly, we want to make sure that we get the most accurate information out there possible. So, there are different ways to do this. One way is to confirm with the official handling the scene. For example, if we're out on a double homicide, the first people we contact is the responding law enforcement agency handling that scene, whether
Mhm.
it's the county sheriff or the local police department. We
Mhm.
have PIOs on speed dial who we can contact to make sure that we're getting the most accurate information possible from what they have so far. Secondly, from getting that information, we actually physically go to the scene. So this was something that set myself apart because there were a lot of quote unquote lazy journalists who would just rely on calling the PIOs,
Mhm.
asking them what happened. But the
Mhm.
best journalists are the ones who physically go to the scene and see for themselves what happened, because you can
Absolutely.
find out a lot just by going to the scene. You can talk to eyewitnesses, you can talk to neighbors if they saw what happened, and you can talk to other officials in person, and you're probably more likely to get information from them
Mhm.
rather than a phone call. So
Absolutely.
that's the best way to set yourself apart if you're just starting off in journalism. Is instead
Mhm.
of relying on a phone call or
Mhm.
talking to someone virtually, physically go to the scene, because that's the best way you can um,
True.
cover that. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Has there been anything like significantly memorable that you just can't forget about your news journey? Like a certain story that broke or
Um, I covered a lot, so let me think. The one that I can think of right now, since I'm back in Yuma, 6 years ago, um, at the height of the humanitarian crisis, Border Patrol were doing their investigations, and so the big story that I was covering, it was the most complex cross-border tunnel in the southern border in history.
oh wow.
So I got exclusive access to the underground tunnel, and it looked
I
like
think I remember
nothing.
that. I
Yeah,
remember
yeah. So
yeah.
it was trippy because like it had plumbing, it had a wooden structure, like an actual tunnel that was built.
Mhm.
It's not something that was just dug up.
Mhm.
And so that was very interesting to see. I got exclusive access by talking to Border Patrol, and
Mhm.
so we were actually walking inside the tunnel, and that became the story. So that was a really cool experience.
Yeah.
Um,
I
I
remember seeing it and I was like, I can't believe he's going in there, you
Yeah.
know? Oh man.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
was it was pretty surreal. And then when I was in Fresno, there was a trippy story about a family of five, along with their family dog, who were all found dead on a hiking trail in the mountains.
Oh,
And
wow.
what was weird about that was there was no evidence of blunt force trauma, and also the family dog was found dead alongside all of them. So yeah, that to this day I still don't know what happened there.
Mhm.
And more recently I've been following a lot of the UAP and UFO stories that have been coming out. So yeah, like I had a lot of fun covering different types of stories.
Yes, of course. That sounds like a fun journey. Like there's always something new at your job, right?
Yeah.
Yes. And so how do you rebuild trust in the media? Like when you see those topics, you're breaking these stories, and
Yeah.
then people are commenting, on social media because they think they have a clue. What do you do to build the trust
Hmm.
when you're in that situation?
Yeah,
It's
I mean, I
priceless when you're
think
in.
Yeah, I think trust has severely gone down with media lately.
Yeah.
I mean, with all the talk of fake news. So on the national level, I mean, the public lost the trust of media because of its partisanship, right? So
Yeah.
you can watch different outlets and they're going to be saying the exact opposite thing. So you don't know what you can trust. So that's why more and more people are relying on different platforms like podcasts,
Yeah.
where you can do long format
Mhm.
storytelling, because
Mhm.
the way TV news is set up, you're telling a story and you have a time limit of a minute 30, if that. It's either a minute 30, a 45-second VOSOT,
Mhm.
or a 30-second story. So there's not much room where you can actually dig deep.
Mhm.
And so that's why I think the news industry is going down as it is,
Mhm.
because more people like to keep themselves informed
Mhm.
in these long format discussions. On the
Mhm.
local level, I think it's easier to trust local news organizations because they don't like having their own opinion on something is way out of their pay grade.
Mhm.
Um,
Oh no.
but yeah,
Yeah.
but the problem I see with local stations, because of budget reasons, they're hiring a lot of newer journalists, so fresh out of college hires.
Mhm.
And sometimes they have the mistake of making it all about themselves, and
Mhm.
they kind of treat news as a way to just get famous and get what's the word, like street cred. That's not
Mhm.
the word I was thinking about, but yeah, they don't treat journalism as a public service or a storytelling platform, which it is. And so I think it's disappointing when I see journalists who are just posting pictures like as if they're models
Mhm.
on TV. So I think that's where news organizations needs to stray away from.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thanks for sharing that. Um, the next thing I wanted to talk about is making an impact. So, can you give us some advice for aspiring journalists who are trying to do what you did for so many years?
Yeah, like I mentioned earlier, when you get into journalism, it's not all about me TV. Like you need to remember that you're doing a public service
Mhm.
and you're primarily a storyteller. So, for example, if you're a reporter out in the field and you're seeing a family in distress because a family member either died or they're going through a traumatic event, you're meeting people at either their best moments or their worst moments. So the first thing out of your mouth should be, "Are you okay?"
Mhm.
And so that's something that I had to learn along the way is in order to for them to trust me as a journalist to get an interview out of them, I need to offer them my condolences and be empathetic towards them. So I always ask whoever I'm talking to, "Are you okay? Like, what do you need? I understand if you don't want to talk to us at this moment, but
Mhm.
here's my number in case whenever you feel better, you can contact me." Like, you have to be human,
Yeah,
especially when you're out in the field. Um,
very.
Also, yeah, and then, as an anchor, I mean, you're a fixture in the community too.
Mhm.
That's something that I tend to forget because I'm like, I don't see myself as higher than anyone else. I'm a pretty laid back dude. I'm pretty chill.
Yeah.
So sometimes as an anchor, I forget that I'm actually a public figure.
Mhm.
And so it's sometimes it's easy to forget that sometimes. Um, but
And then
yeah, it takes a lot of responsibility that you have to remember.
it does, it does. And then you have to also remember, like, in your industry, there's always going to be challenges, and every day is a new challenge. Every day is a new story. Every day you meet people from different walks of life. So you have to always think about them first, and then you respond. Because once you put that news out there, it's
Mm.
out there.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what you said or what you've done, it's already out there. And crisis communication is
Mm.
no fun.
Yeah.
So it's, and you guys have to be so organized and so put together when that moment you break the story. So I really appreciate all the stuff that you've done over the
Mm.
years. I think it's great that you do that empathy first,
Mm.
because in any relationships or anything in life, like having a little bit of empathy just goes a
Yeah.
long way. It
Oh, yeah,
builds
for sure.
relationships, and it builds, like we talked about earlier, meaningful connections.
Mm.
Because if they like you and they trust you on the news, they're gonna have more of a chance to like want to get to know you in person too. You're not just the public figure; you're also a human being who has likes and things that they want to do in life aside from their career.
Yeah.
So, and you're a man of a lot of talent, so I know that much.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Welcome. You're welcome. So, the second to last topic we're going to talk about is the digital revolution. How has marketing transformed over the last decade?
Yeah, so like I mentioned, after almost a decade of news, I left news and I'm entering a new chapter in my life as a marketing guy.
Mhm.
So the way I see the marketing evolution and how digital marketing has evolved over the past decade, it's
Mhm.
geared now focused on social media, which is very different from traditional marketing, which
Okay.
was by way of press releases, which we still do.
Mhm.
And it's interesting because when I was a journalist, on TV, I used to look down on these quote unquote social media influencers because they didn't have any formal training as a media professional. They're just regular everyday people who somehow got popular, right? But it's very,
Viral moments that we all wait for.
yeah, yeah, but people actually listen to these people, so
Yeah.
you have to give them that credit. And they found a way where they just embrace the platform to go viral, to get attention. And so yeah, they are owed some credit in that regard too. As more and more people are leaving traditional media, more and people are turning towards TikTok,
Yes.
Instagram Reels,
Yeah.
and they're actually watching these social media influencers. So I think that's the direction it's going now. Sometimes you might be watching a reel or a TikTok and think it's stupid, but there's actually some thought that was put into it
Yeah.
to make it more appealing and relevant. And yeah, and this is what people are watching.
That's how like a lot of these musicians now are using that the TikTok, and they have those little snippets of music, but then people are like going to the Spotify, doing dance challenges, and you're like, wait, that just came from TikTok, but it's an actual song that's been
Yeah.
playing on the radio on repeat. Next thing you know, people are making a dance move, and it's gone viral, and every second person's now putting it on Instagram.
Oh yeah.
That's where it goes viral, and then the influencers get paid and things like that. But it's just crazy how TikTok's really taken over. And yeah, reels too, because more and more people are consuming news on these shorter reels
Yeah.
um ever before. YouTube and Instagram are almost becoming like Google, where they're like, oh, I want to learn a new topic on how to cook, Filipino food or Hawaiian food, and then they go onto Instagram, and boom, you get these short reels, and they're so informative in such a short period of time. And instead of watching the whole, video or seeing it on like a written form, and yeah, it's definitely changed how we consume media for sure.
Yeah, and that's the other thing. That's the other reason why people are straying away from traditional media is because our attention spans are so short. Like
Mhm.
whenever we were on news, we always had the mindset at like you have to make this lead as if someone is going to tune out after 7 seconds. And so that's where something like TikTok comes into play because it's made for short form content like that.
Yes.
Like you can make some really interesting videos in a 30-second long video. And so I think that's why people are turning more towards that format and that platform because it's so short. It doesn't take a lot of time. It's zero commitment.
Mhm.
And I think, I mean, it's sad to say, like our attention spans are shrinking the more we get older. So,
Yes, I know for sure. Definitely.
yeah.
It's sad to say, but yeah, sad to say. Alrighty. So, what do you think is the future? What do you think is the future of journalism? Where do you think it's going?
So the future of journalism as in regards to traditional media, I mean, I think it's going more towards long format discussions. I think traditional TV is going to be obsolete. If not, I think it's already becoming obsolete. More and more people just aren't subscribed to cable TV anymore, and so that was one of the factors I was thinking about when choosing to leave TV news.
Mhm.
There's a bunch of layoffs going on across the board. Journalists who I know who have been in the industry for over 20 years are being laid off because of budget cuts.
Yeah.
So it's a challenging time right now for people in TV news. You're either very lucky or you're very unlucky. That's kind of the way it is now. So I just thought this would be a great time to explore something that I've always wanted to try, which is PR and marketing. I had one other marketing job before this. It was a
Mhm.
remote job,
Mhm.
but my major when I was in at ASU was digital audiences and marketing. So
Oh, great.
this was a great way to apply what I've learned there, and it's been a fun ride. I work at a school district, Harvest Preparatory Academy in Yuma. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot more work than I expected, but it's very fulfilling. I have a great team that I work with. My colleague is actually in the same room as me now. We're known as the marketing bros around here.
That's awesome.
So yeah, it's been a fun time. I thought that I would miss news more that I do, but
Mhm,
like I've been having a lot of fun. I still get to be on the camera.
mhm.
I have a weekly segment here called Harvest Highlights where I interview these wonderful and amazing kids
That's awesome.
who achieve a lot, and so it's very fulfilling work to be a part of these students' lives and to shine a light on their accomplishments.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's been a fun ride, and I actually don't miss news at all.
Really? I'm
Yeah.
sure you meet the people that you met though, because you meet some amazing people and you get some
Oh yeah.
amazing schools and amazing things you get to go to. Like I remember when I worked in the industry, I got to do Tengo Talento, Mucho Talento, which is basically
Mm,
like an AGT for the Hispanic community.
mm,
And being South Asian, I was like, thank God I learned Spanish in eighth grade and onwards, you know?
yeah.
And so it was really awesome. And I still have a connection. Shout out to Bill Garcia, who
Mm.
is from Estrella TV. And such an inspiration. He's the one who said, keep going. You know, there's a lane for you. He used to manage like pretty high profile people, and he's still in Los Angeles and in Burbank. Such a
Oh,
great,
okay.
really influential person.
Yeah.
And just like I'm sure you've met some amazing people along the way.
Oh, yeah. I guess I do take back saying that I don't miss news at all. I do miss the people that I met along the way, just by people I met through my sources or just my coworkers. I met a lot of cool people. I actually, my ex was my direct competitor when I was in California. And so, yeah, you meet a lot of cool people. You might end up dating them. So, yeah, it's been fun meeting everyone.
So how did you like producing? Did you enjoy it like when you were doing producing more so than anchoring?
I did. I mean, producing, like, that's the fundamentals, right? So when you're starting off in TV news, ideally you'd want to start off as either a producer or a news writer because
Mhm,
that's a foundation, especially when you're out in the field as a TV reporter. Like, you need to have the foundation as a writer and a storyteller because there's a format that you have to follow. Um,
mhm.
whenever you're out in the field and you're delivering news, there's a formula you have to follow with TV.
Of course, of course. So thank you so much. I really appreciate you being on the show today. I know we covered a lot of different topics. So if you want to know more about Gabe, follow him at Gabe Salazar TV at Facebook, Instagram, and you can find him on LinkedIn. You can email him, gabriel.salazar808 at gmail.com. You so much. If you want to know more, if you want more, if you want him back, please below, and I will get him back. So you can visit my website, www.oneselfconsulting.com, to know more about what we do. This has been Inspiring Innovators. We'll see you on the other side. Have a great day, everybody. I think we're still live. Okay. Do
No,
you have anything else to say
no,
before
just
we to our
no, thank you, and I appreciate you having me. It's been good talking to you. And yeah, thank you.
Alrighty. Take care, guys.